I can still remember the atmosphere of that year like it happened yesterday. It was 2024, and life felt like it was closing in on me from every direction. The nights in the city were always humid and heavy. Our tiny condominium felt even smaller with 4 people living inside it. My 3 friends and I were all preparing for the same thing, a massive board exam that would determine our future careers. Every day felt the same. Stacks of review books on the table, practice exams scattered across the floor, empty coffee cups everywhere, and anxiety, constant crushing anxiety. Sometimes one of us would laugh over something random just to break the tension, but most nights ended with someone silently staring at their notes while pretending they weren't overwhelmed. During one of those long nights, when my brain was completely fried from memorizing formulas, I made a decision that probably wasn't the smartest. I downloaded a dating app. At the time, it felt harmless, just a distraction, something to take my mind off the stress. That's when I met him. For the sake of this story, I'll call him Michael. At first, he seemed completely normal. His profile pictures looked natural. No strange filters, no weird poses. Just a handsome guy with a relaxed smile. According to his profile, he worked remotely and liked traveling. We matched almost instantly, and he started messaging me right away. There was something about the way he talked that pulled me in. He was funny without trying too hard. Calm. Easy to talk to. He replied quickly, but not too quickly. You know that strange balance people have when they seem interested, but not desperate. Michael had mastered that perfectly. Soon we were talking every single day, then every night. Before I even realized what was happening, we were spending hours on voice calls. I would lie on my thin mattress in the condo, staring at the ceiling while listening to his voice through my headphones. For a while, it actually helped me forget the stress of the exam. But there was one strange thing. I had never seen his face live. Every time I suggested a video call, he had a reason why he couldn't. At first, his explanation seemed believable. He said his phone had recently been stolen, and the only device he had was an old laptop with a broken camera. I didn't question it, at least not right away. But over time, little things started to feel off, small red flags, and I kept ignoring them. One of the biggest issues started when our conversations occasionally turned slightly personal. Out of nowhere, Michael would ask me to send him revealing photos, not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Every single time I shut it down immediately. I told him clearly that I wasn't comfortable with that, especially online, especially with someone I hadn't met in person. Sometimes he apologized. Sometimes he respected my boundaries, but the next day, he would ask again like the conversation had never happened. It became a frustrating cycle. He would push. I would refuse. He would sulk, then apologize, then repeat the same thing days later. My friends started noticing something was wrong before I fully admitted it to myself. One night we were all studying in the living room when one of them finally asked, "Wait, have you ever actually seen his face on video?" I hesitated. "No." Another friend frowned. "Not even for a second?" I shook my head. "He said his phone got stolen," I explained. "And his laptop camera is broken." The room went silent. They looked at each other, the way people do when they don't want to say something out loud. Finally, one of them spoke gently. "Marie, if someone really wanted to see you, they would find a way. Even a cheap laptop has a camera. Even borrowed phones exist." Deep down, I knew they were right. But I kept defending him. I kept telling myself he wouldn't call me every day if he wasn't serious. I kept believing in the version of him that existed only through his voice. Then December arrived. The exam was only weeks away and Christmas was approaching. For some reason, I suddenly felt brave, or maybe desperate for answers. One night during a call, I said something I hadn't said before. "Why don't you come spend Christmas with my family?" There was a long pause. Then he said yes immediately. No hesitation, no excuses. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful. Maybe everything would finally make sense. Maybe he was exactly who he said he was. But the day before we were supposed to meet, everything fell apart. I was sitting on the condo couch reviewing flashcards when my phone rang. It was Michael. The moment I answered, something felt wrong. His breathing was uneven. He sounded like he had been crying. "Can we talk?" he whispered. My stomach dropped. It took him several minutes to say the words. Then finally he confessed, "I need to tell you something. I'm not who you think I am. My heart started racing. He told me everything. The photos on his profile weren't him. They belonged to an influencer from Indonesia. His name wasn't Michael. His job wasn't real. His background wasn't real. Almost everything he had told me was a lie. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath my feet. Then he sent me a photo of what he actually looked like. The shock made my hands shake. In that moment, every strange interaction suddenly made sense. The constant pressure for photos. The refusal to video call. The endless excuses to avoid meeting. When I told him I couldn't continue the relationship, he completely snapped. Suddenly, I was the villain. "So you're just like everyone else," he said angrily. "You only like me because of the pictures." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He lied to me for months and somehow he was blaming me. Then the conversation took an even stranger turn. He begged me to still let him come for Christmas. He said he had already told his parents he wouldn't be home. He claimed he had nowhere else to go. That was the moment I finally cut him off. I blocked his number. I blocked his account, and I spent Christmas peacefully with my family. For almost a year, life returned to normal. I focused on studying, hobbies, and spending time with friends. Eventually, I started posting on Instagram again. Selfies, small life updates, cosplay photos I was proud of. It felt good to exist online again without feeling watched. But there was one mistake I didn't realize I had made. I had forgotten to remove Michael from my followers. One night after posting a story, I received a message request from him. Just seeing his name made my stomach twist. I ignored it, but the messages kept coming, every few hours. Then one night, curiosity got the better of me. I opened the chat, and instantly felt the blood drain from my face, because the last message contained a photo. It was the front of my house. My parents weren't home. My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. Without thinking, I locked every door in the house. Then I ran upstairs and locked my bedroom door, and called the police. While I was on the phone with the dispatcher, I heard knocking, then pounding, then his voice outside, calling my name. "Please just open the door. We can talk." His voice sounded desperate, unstable, completely different from the calm person I used to talk to. I crouched beside my bed while the dispatcher kept me calm. Minutes later, I heard police sirens. Officers arrived quickly because the station was only a few blocks away. They arrested him outside my house. When the police came to check on me, I was still shaking. Then one of the officers told me something that made my knees go weak. He had been holding a knife. To this day, I don't know what he intended to do. Threaten me, hurt me, or hurt himself. But the thought that he had traveled all the way to my house with a weapon still sends chills down my spine. That night, I finally told my parents everything. Every lie. Every warning sign I ignored. They were angry, but mostly they were relieved that I was safe. My mom hugged me so tightly it felt like she never wanted to let go. Even now, whenever I think about the officer's words, he was holding a knife, I still feel the same cold chill run down my spine. Because the man I thought I knew for months was never real, and the real one almost came through my front door. I never really considered myself a dating app guy. Back in college, sure, I used Tinder here and there, mostly just messing around. Nothing serious. But after that, I ended up in a 4-year relationship. And during that time, I completely forgot how dating even worked. When that relationship ended, I suddenly realized something uncomfortable. I didn't know how to flirt anymore. Going out to bars with my single friends felt awkward. The confidence I used to have was just gone. So like a lot of people these days, I figured the easiest way to get back into dating was through apps, and everyone kept telling me the same thing. If you actually want to meet someone serious, try Hinge. So I downloaded it. Within the first few days, I got a couple of matches. Nothing special until I matched with a girl named Jenna. Her photos immediately caught my attention. She was a short girl with black hair, tan skin, and this Italian look. The kind of girl who clearly spent time in the gym. She looked confident, stylish, and honestly a little intimidating. But our conversation started off surprisingly easy. Within about 10 messages back and forth, she asked if we could switch to Instagram. She said she hated opening the Hinge app and preferred chatting there. That didn't seem weird at the time, so I gave her my username. Almost instantly, I got a follow request. Her Instagram username had something like Jenna, with a bunch of extra Us in it. She had around 2,000 followers, followed about 200 people, and only had 2 posts. Both were mirror selfies. But I couldn't lie, she looked good. The photos had tons of likes and comments, although every single comment was from guys. Mostly the kind of comments you'd expect from thirsty dudes online. She also had a story posted. I tapped it. Another mirror selfie, this time at the gym. A few seconds later, she DM'd me. We picked up the conversation right where we left off. Gym routines, traveling, random life stuff. The conversation flowed surprisingly well. Then something unexpected happened. She suggested we grab a drink that same night. Spontaneous. Apparently, she was already in the same town as me, which felt like a lucky coincidence. So we picked a bar downtown and agreed to meet at 9 p.m. I knew the place well. I'd been there plenty of times and even recognized some of the bartenders. I decided to show up a little early. When I walked in around 8:50, the bar had that typical late evening buzz. Not packed, but lively enough. A few groups talking loudly, glasses clinking, music humming in the background. I grabbed a stool at the bar, away from most people. One of the bartenders I knew came over and smiled. Without even asking, she made me an espresso martini. I took a few casual sips and messaged Jenna that I'd arrived, telling her to take her time. While waiting, I started scrolling through her Instagram again. That's when things started to feel strange. First, I checked her tagged photos. There were none. Then I read through the comments on her posts. Every single one was from a guy. Not a single female friend commenting. No group photos. No normal social media stuff. Then I looked at her following list. And that's when I noticed something even stranger. She didn't follow a single woman. Only men. Every single account. A weird feeling started creeping in. Before I could think too much about it, a man sat down on the stool next to me. "Hey, how's it going?" he said casually. I nodded politely. He kept talking. He said he recognized me and asked if I came to the bar often. I finally looked at him more closely. He looked maybe late 30s. Slightly gray hair, a little overweight, patchy beard that probably should have been shaved. I didn't recognize him at all. But I told him, yeah, I come here sometimes. He reached out his hand. "Rob." I shook it, introducing myself as well. Inside my head, I was already thinking, great, one of those overly friendly bar strangers. Just then, the bartender came over and joked to him. "Finally decided to get a drink, huh?" Rob gave this strange little laugh. And suddenly something clicked in my mind. Had he already been here? Was he watching me before he sat down? Trying to ignore the thought, I messaged Jenna again jokingly. "Help. I think the guy next to me is hitting on me." But I noticed something. My previous message to her had been left unseen. I asked if she was on her way. No reply. Now the uncomfortable feeling was getting stronger. I checked Hinge again. Her profile was gone. Deleted. At that point, it was obvious. I had been catfished. Annoyed and embarrassed, I asked the bartender for my check. Rob kept trying to keep the conversation going. "Leaving already?" he asked. "Yeah," I said shortly. "Gotta head out." As I stood up, he kept talking. "You should stay," he said. "This place fills up with hot girls later." I forced a polite goodbye to the bartender and turned toward the exit. That's when I felt something grab my wrist. Hard. I turned around immediately. Rob's hand was tightly wrapped around my arm. "What the hell are you doing?" I said loudly. People at the bar started turning their heads. He leaned closer. His face twisted into this strange expression. Then he whispered something that made my stomach drop. "I'm Jenna. I'm sorry. Please don't go." For a moment, I felt completely frozen. Then pure disgust hit me. I yanked my arm free and walked out of the bar as fast as I could without running. The drive home was silent. No music. No phone calls. I just kept replaying the moment in my head over and over again. When I got home, I collapsed onto my bed and stared at the ceiling. After a while, I grabbed my phone and opened Instagram to block the account. But it was already gone. Either he blocked me, or he deleted it. I tried convincing myself it was over. Just a weird, disturbing experience I could forget. So I turned on the TV and tried to relax. Eventually, I shut the lights off and laid down. And that's when the worst part happened. My bedroom was on the first floor. Suddenly, bang! A loud, aggressive knock hit my window. I froze. The blinds were closed. I couldn't see outside. Instead of asking who it was, I stayed completely silent. My eyes locked on the blinds. Then I heard a voice outside. A man's voice. Soft. Repeating my name. "Scott. Scott." Over and over. He said it at least 10 times. I didn't move, didn't speak, but he knew I was there. The TV light was still glowing through the room. Eventually, the voice stopped. I stayed awake the entire night. The next morning, when the sun finally came up, I slowly lifted the blinds. There was a small piece of paper taped to the outside of the window. 3 words written on it: "I'll be watching you." I didn't leave my apartment that entire weekend. And a few days later, I moved.